Okay, so this is how the lab is going to look like when you start. If you download the template files from Ping-Pong. And when it's done, it's going to work like this. So if you click one of these boxes, you're going to split them in half. And if you split one of those boxes in half, well, it's going to do that as well. So in every odd time that you click, it's split into vertical or horizontal and vice versa. So I click here and I click that one, and now I click this one. It's going to be stacked in a row or column wise. Sorry, as a column. That's the flex direction column. And if I click here, it's going to be two boxes stacked next to each other. And the next time one of those, if I click one of those, they're going to be divided into two boxes that are stacked on top of each other. And this one, if I click here, it's going to be two boxes stacked next to each other from left to right in a horizontal manner. And then you just play around with that if you want to. But so how do we do this? Well, let's refresh and have a look at the source code. So this is what you'll start out with: a main tag, and two div tags. And the main has a class of vertical. And if we look at the CSS that you have, you can see that vertical class has flex direction set to column. That means that its children will be stacked as a column. So these two are stacked on top of each other in a column. Whereas these are horizontal if they have any children. So if I click the top one, now that one should be split in half. Well, as you can see, what happens when I click it is that there are two new children added to it, which takes up all the space thanks to Flexbox. And yet this one has now the class of age. So these are splits, or these boxes are stacked horizontally or flex direction row. So that's the idea. Every time you click a box, if we click the second box here, that one is supposed to be getting two new children, and the box that you click should, if the last click that you made was a split, so this was creating two age boxes and the parent was V, right? So the next box I clicked doesn't really matter what it was because it needs to be an age. So that one should now be an age. So the children are stacked horizontally. To do that, you need to know how to add an on click. And in that function, you need to create new elements and append them to the thing that you clicked on. And I'm going to give you a hint for that because that is something that we are sneak peeking at for the next week. So if I select one of these elements here, this one, I can now access it in Chrome's development tools by using the $and 0. This is the one, right? All right, so I just removed that, the previous event listener that we had for that one. And instead I'm going to do $0 dot on click and assign a function to that property. So function, and something that we haven't done before, we're going to make it possible for the on click, whenever that happens, the event that is, it's not discharge, but something like that, I think. Anyway, so function E, or we can call it event. This is our own internal variable. We can call it whatever we want, but I know that the browser will call this function when this element has been clicked. And then it's going to pass in something here. And you can call that the event object. And the thing with the event object is that it contains information about what we clicked. So if I say console.log, and let's just log that event variable and see what it actually contains, right? So I'm just gonna run this function right now, and I click here. It says that dispatched, that was the word I was looking for, by the way. So as we can see here, let's switch over to the console. There's a lot of properties in here. So the event that just happened was a mouse event, to be more specific. And the target property shows us what was actually clicked, even though, yeah, we know it was that one, right? And yeah, so that's the element. So now if I say console log event instead of just event, I know that event.target is the thing that I just clicked, right? But you say, well, we know that we clicked it because that's where we added the onClick function. Well, okay, let's say if we added it to document.onClick, now which element did we actually click? Well, if I add this, I can click over here and it says, well, you clicked that one. Okay, that's true. So if I click this one, well, it returns or logs that one. If I click over here, it returns that one. So as you can see here, it's a way of figuring out if we add the onClick to a parent, the bigger parent, like the entire document here, then we can figure out which element was clicked through the event object that is going to be passed to our function. And in that object, there are tons of stuff that we can have use for. In this lab, all you need to know is that the target, the element that dispatched the actual event that felt the click, so to speak, is in the target property of the event object. And as I said, you can call this whatever you want to. Okay, so if I say document, that one has a, let's see if I click, let's move that one again. Okay. So again, document on click. How do we know the parent? Well, the target element has a parent element, capital E, of course. So when we click here, we instead get the parent element. If I click this one, well, the parent is that one. And then we can do stuff with the parents. How do we change the class? Well, we looked at how we can add an attribute, set attribute before. There is also something specific for class attribute, $0.parent element is this one. Okay, parent element dot class name is right now age, and we can change it to V. And that, as you can see, changes how it displays those two boxes that are inside of it. So from V to age, and that changes it. So that's kind of how it all works. So you don't have to figure that out all by yourself. What about the colors? You promised to tell us about the colors. Well, okay, so how to get that fancy style? Well, you know how to set the style right now for new elements, but how to get a new color every time? Well, I've given you a script that you can use without any restrictions. I've added a reference to the original script creator that I have adapted this script from. And you can use it any way you want. So the way that you use it is that you call the function next color. When you call it, it returns this string, and you can use that as the background color of whatever element you have. So $0 style.css text equals, and then we just get a new value by calling next color, and that changed the parent. And we can't see the parent because it's all filled with children. So okay, let's select one of those instead and do the same thing again. All right, so now every time we call it, it gets a little bit of a difference in the color. All right, and for the higher grades on this lab, you need to create your own script to set a new color every time you click. So a color scroller, or whatever you want to call it. All right, good luck with this one.